again. Sorry about that. Technical difficulties here in the quarantine where everything is virtual. So I'm really curious where folks are chiming in from. You can verbally let me know. I'm in Washington, D.C. You can turn on your camera and unmute your microphone and just shout out, where are you from? There we go. Where are folks chiming in from? Don't be shy. If you're trying to speak, just make sure you're unmuting your microphone.
New Jersey.
Oh, New Jersey. Okay. What's up, Jersey? Jersey. You have two Jersey. Anybody else?
I'm from Atlanta, Georgia.
Atlanta. Oh, that's one of my favorite places to go to an AFROPUNK festival. Shout out to Atlanta. Let's hear one more. New York. Okay, nice, nice. So I guess the first question I want to ask in this community soapbox is, what are some of the issues that have come up if you've been in some of the other AFROPUNK sessions from this morning, whether you were in the one about arts and activism or some of the other sessions? What are some of the issues that have come up from those sessions? I know for me, one of the biggest ones that came up that really spoke to my soul was the idea of, as Black artists, sort of being able to come from an abundance mindset and not always being hung up on this false notion that there can only be one successful Black artist. There's enough room for all of us. So that was definitely part of the session that spoke to me. So I'm curious, if folks were in other sessions, what are some of the issues that really connected with you all? And again, just unmute yourselves and chime right in. Don't be shy. Anybody? Well, I will move on. You know, the thing that really resonated from a lot of the sessions for me was how many of us, and by us, I mean Black folks, the Black community, are really out here like doing our thing in quarantine, and how difficult it can be to really find community. I know this time last year, I would have been in Atlanta, in Brooklyn, you know, at AFROPUNK, but here I am in my apartment in DC, which is not quite as exciting. But, you know, the first question that I have, like, how have you all found ways to stay connected to your communities, even when we can't really be physically around each other? I would love to hear how folks' experiences have been with that. You can unmute yourself and turn on your camera and just shout it out.
Hi, can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you. You sound great. So I would love for you to say your name, where you're from, your pronouns, and how you have found community in quarantine.
Yes, my name is Shirley Blantz. I'm a native of New Jersey, Trenton, born and raised here. And one way, I'm an educator with New Jersey Education Association. So we have been very active, staying connected with our community. I'm on a committee this year that we did over 1,500 flowers to nursing homes, not only to the people that was in the nursing home, but also to the workers. We delivered 1,500 flowers to over 11 different nursing homes. We also got involved with Women's Space, where we provided meals to the patrons. Every Friday, they had a choice of getting what they wanted. We did the Children's Home Society, where we donated 1,500 bags packed with school supplies. And right now, I'm volunteering for an organization here that provides food, shelter, whatever needs our residents may need, called Arm in Arm. And I find that very fulfilling. So doing volunteer work, staying connected with the community, helping those that I can help, and just letting other people know, and stressing about the importance of voting.
Definitely. Just out of curiosity, how did you get involved and plugged into volunteer work? Is this something that you have always had a volunteer spirit, or a friend turned you on to it? Why is volunteering so important to you?
Well, it's just something, my mother was always a blessing to the community, a helper. And I just took that spirit from her of, if you're down, I'm going to help you. And being involved in school, so many needs that our children have, I would just pitch in and help. And for 3 years, we have a program called Trenton Area Soup Kitchen. I did that for 3 years when I was out of work, like it was a job every day. People actually thought I had a job till I got a job, and they wanted to know where I was. And I told them that was on a volunteer basis. That was just how faithful I was to the cause. But I love giving back to our community because I realized some of the needs that our residents have, that could also be me. Just because it's not me today, don't mean it won't be me tomorrow. And so I do what I can while I can.
Absolutely. What are some other ways that folks have found to connect to their communities, especially in quarantine? You can just turn on your microphone, unmute yourself, and let us know. We want to hear from you.
Hello, I'll go. My name is Shahira Hutchinson. Greetings, everyone. I am from New Jersey as well. And Miss Sandra, I would like to say thank you because I actually do work at the Children's Home Society. So thank you for your volunteering with that.
Thank you.
The way that I have stayed connected to the community is I'm a women's health advocate at the Children's Home Society. So I work with pregnant women and teens. And so what I did is I take a step and go beyond, and I've actually visited moms safely just to make sure that they're getting everything that they need. I refer them to the different farmers markets. I help them to make sure that they are a part of the WIC program, SNAP, TANF. I've actually done applications for them. I make sure that they are part of the Early Head Start program if they need to be. So just a lot of things that they would usually come into the office for, and they may or may not get help because of, depending on the flow of people coming in and asking for that. It just feels good that I'm able to actually help them to do that and walk them through it. And I've been able to help people register to vote. I've been able to help people do the census. So it's just really rewarding to be able to reach the community, even though we're all on lockdown, and still be able to help my Trenton family.
That is so beautiful. I have to say, like, listening to you two speak is so inspiring. Something that I like to remind myself of is, as a community, we are facing a lot of problems and issues, and there's a lot of threats to our community, but there is nothing that we can't do when we reach back into our people and our community. Like, we always have each other. Sometimes that's all we have. And listening to you two speak, I think is just a good reminder of that we always have each other. We always support each other. And that's something that I love about us. Both of your responses brought up voting and helping folks get registered to vote. We're looking at an election in America. A lot of the folks who chimed in about where they were from are in the United States. So, we have a big election coming up in 10 days, 9 days. What are some of the issues that you all are most concerned about impacting your local communities that you are fired up about or paying attention to? What are some issues that you all are really, looking out for? Again, you can just unmute yourself and turn on your camera and chime in.
The economy, absolutely. Ooh. The local and federal and national economy are, hi everyone, I'm Courtney. My apologies for being late. The economy it just continues to on this trend that has existed since Reconstruction of the chasm between the 1% and the 99, and the disappearance of the middle class between either they fall to poverty or they ascend. And there are plenty of microcosms of that around the country. But as many here may well have heard, it's been at warp speed in DC. So the economy is the biggest concern here. I have a degree from my beloved Xavier University of Louisiana, as well as military experience, and I'm still struggling to find work all the time. and I have been for years. I have no criminal background. I have no major medical issues that would prevent me from work. Shouts out to those who are disabled, who are disabled people of color who also have issues finding work and are still persisting, or still and for whom we still have to advocate. But yes, HBCU love. That's so the economy.
Yeah, it's funny. In one of the earlier sessions, we talked to a Black financial planner and a Black entrepreneur. And one of the things that I was really struck by in that conversation is that we often talk about, how Black folks, we don't get the same economic opportunities as other communities. And listening to them talk, the thing I was struck by again and again is that we are often shut out from those opportunities almost on purpose, right? And so, not having access to things, I guess I feel sometimes that it can feel as though you want to blame yourself if you're having trouble finding work, or you can blame yourself if you're having trouble being financially stable. And that undercuts how much of these things we're denied access to, historically denied access to. And so you shouldn't necessarily beat yourself up personally about a problem that is systemic, right? A problem that is institutional, a problem where so many failures are baked right into the system, right? So you should not feel like a personal failure if you can't win at a system that is rigged against you, and it has been for hundreds of years. So I definitely hear that as a big issue. And I think, frankly, going into 2020, the election 2021, the economy, we really need to have a real conversation about how unfair the economy has been to folks that look like us, and really I think it will take real systemic, radical change to get anything done, right? Like, it really is that deep. So what other issues are folks, really that are on top of mind for folks as we go into this election?
So
and again, you can just. Oh, please.
Can you hear me? Okay. No.
Yes.
I was just going to say, being as an educator in the K through 12 system right now, and I'm in California. My name's Maka. I'm working with students, and we've been doing these projects, which has been about voter suppression and teaching them. And one of the ballots, or one of the issues is like lowering the younger age to 17 for people to be able to vote, and also giving people who are off of parole, giving them their right to vote back. And talking to my students and them not understanding that's possible, the change of, giving someone their right back to vote, lowering the age to vote. I think that's huge when I'm looking at the future that we have in front of us of how we can continue to do this work. It's about educating what can change, what we as the people have the power to do so. I, again, don't think that it's just political. I do think that we can continue to tell people how to get involved, how to be in their community, how to tap in, because you don't have to, have this piece of paper and go and vote, but we all have our own niche, and we need to, embrace that. And that's what I felt from today, like going to a lot of these sessions, is that find your niche, and therefore you can find a way to impact our community and be a part of this change.
All right. Another way we can.
Oh, please, go ahead.
Another way we can impact our community is running for some of these political offices. As a member of New Jersey Education Association, about 180 women ran for either council or mayor or whatever. We had 180 women that got into political positions to support some of the ideals that we wanted to support. And also just encouraging people, like, never down yourself for not getting a job, because we know you can have 2, 3, 4 degrees, but it's that white privilege out there. And it really exists, that white privilege. Just because you woke up white as a male, you already have advantage over me, no matter how many degrees I have. So it's the same thing. We got to work twice as hard. We got to prove ourselves. We're still doing this in this day and age, which is sad to say. But with this systemic racism, which all over the country. And this prison population is incarceration of our young people. It just saddens my heart. And even when they do get out, they still, well, New Jersey has passed it now. You can vote now, even if you have been in prison. They did pass that law. And I'm glad to know New Jersey, last year at New Jersey, at our teachers convention, with this Amistad law that was passed back in 2000, saying that our African-American history was supposed to be taught from K through 12. Now, this was 2000 or 2002. It was a law passed in the state of New Jersey, and we still not teaching our history from K through 12. But last year at the Teachers Convention in Atlantic City, it's mandatory now that our children be taught our history. And it's a shame, because this country, I look at it this way, what our people have been through, and every time I think about voting, lynching, incarceration, and everything else this country has put our people through, it disturbs me greatly. But then if you go and sit at home and not vote, that disturbs me even more for the people that lost their lives so that we can.
Absolutely. I just want to lift that up, all the things that you just shared. You know, first of all, I hope that everybody here who is able to do so is registered to vote or has already voted. If there's anybody here who is able to vote but has not registered or doesn't know, you know, wants the information, please reach out to me. I will personally see to it that we get you registered, you find your polling place. But I also want to say, you know, I am 100% with you, right? I think that we definitely need to be showing up at the polls and making our voices heard. But I also think that there are as you said, there are so many other ways in addition to voting that we can get involved. I would love to see more of us running for office. There is a wonderful young woman in Atlanta. Some of you might have heard of her, Mary Pat Hector. She's one of the youngest Black women to ever run for public office, right? And I would love to see more of us not just voting, but being the person who is getting people to vote for them, being the person who is representing their community. So if folks have specific questions about that, I am more than happy to connect with you after this, because all of us should be voting. All of us should be, you know, running for office. And I mean, look today where we are. Look at people like AOC. Not even that long ago, she was, you know, just a regular person working in a bar, and now she's representing her community and making change. So there is nothing that any of these people who are representing communities have that nobody here has. All of us have that. So I definitely want to just +1 everything you just said about how important it is for us to not just vote and make our voices heard, but really have a meaningful role to play in our democracies. Absolutely. What are some other issues that we are seeing that were top of mind, that we're interested in, that we're fired up about as we go into this election? Again, you can just turn on your microphone and let us know. Don't be shy. Well, I can tell you one issue that I am definitely concerned about going into the election, and that is democracy reform and voting reform. You know, I think it's not fair that if you happen to go to prison on a felony, that you lose your right to vote. I want to see that law overturned. I want to see policy in this country that is more fair, so that more people can have our voices heard. I think I get a little frustrated when people are like, vote, 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 but then don't say like, oh, well, how many Black men especially have been disenfranchised because they've been to prison? That's not fair. So just telling people to vote won't actually fix that. So I'm very fired up about creating a system where when you say vote, it doesn't mean you're gonna have to stand in line for 5 hours just to vote, right? Or take off work and maybe get fired just to vote. I want to see a country where everybody's able to have their voice heard at the voting ballot, and not have it be something that is some people can and some people can't. I want, when people say like, go out and vote, that it actually means something, that people actually have access to that as something they can do. So that's an issue that I am very fired up about. I hope it's an issue that we're able to get some change around. Does anyone else have an issue they want to share about what they're fired up about or concerned about, or like why they're voting, or what they are hoping to vote for in this upcoming election?
Well, let's say I am voting for, is Shahira, voting for my 9-year-old goddaughter who cannot vote. I am voting for my great niece who cannot vote. So I'm voting for them, as well as to see things become better than what they are now.
I love that. Yeah, I think it's important. We have to be, I think it's important to acknowledge the folks in our community who cannot vote and voting for them, but also being pissed off on their behalf, right? Because it's not fair that we live in a place where people don't even get to vote as an expression of their democracy, that so many of us, and a lot of folks who look like us, are just disenfranchised in that way, and that's just meant to be business as usual. So voting for these people and then being angry enough on their behalf to advocate for meaningful change in terms of how our democracy functions. So definitely plus 100 to that. Anyone else, feel free to just unmute your microphone and chime right in.
Yeah. I'm so crazy. I was trying to unmute my microphone. I think about healthcare in this country. I always say that this country, nobody should have to go without healthcare, especially our seniors. And my concern is housing, healthcare, incarceration, the justice system. I can go on and on and on. Education for our children. We just, this country just have to do better. And I like to see jobs come back here to the USA instead of keep exporting out. Because one day is going to be, we might not can even bring anything into this country the way the world is going today. So my thing is, I would like to see more jobs returned back here to the good USA, not good USA, but just the USA. Jobs returned back here where we can be self-sufficient for ourselves, and a lot of things that we've been getting from overseas.
I love it. I love it. So I want to, so many of the answers that you all just gave really highlight, I think, the importance of Black folks really being able to imagine bright, happy futures for ourselves. And in some of the earlier sessions I was in, we kept coming back to this idea of Black joy. And I kind of want to mix it up a little bit. My question for the group is, what does Black joy look like to you? What does it feel like to you? You know, what does Black joy mean to you? Just unmute yourselves and let me know.
I would like to go, just enjoyment amongst our people without any violence, and we all just having a whole bunch of fun and dancing and acting crazy and just enjoying in each other's like Blackness, I guess.
That's exactly what I would be doing if we were at a physical AFROPUNK festival. Anybody else? What does Black joy mean to you? What does it look like? What does it feel like? What does it smell like? What does it taste like? You can just unmute yourself and let me hear that joyful voice.
Black joy to me would be just living in harmony with my people, with all races of people, not just my people. That's part of the problem. Other ethnic groups never get a chance to know another person. Like if I live in an all Black neighborhood or you live in an all white neighborhood, you would never know anything about me except for probably what you see on TV, which is not the truth at all the time. But just having a choice to live where I want to live without fear of my house being burnt down, just be fair to me. If I'm qualified for a job, I can get that job, not based on because I'm Black, but I'm qualified to do the job. That's what harmony would be to me. just having the same right as you have.
Black joy to me.
Let's hear it. Black joy to you. Let's hear it.
Black joy to me would be able to wake up, you know, God willing, every morning and just have a lovely start to my day, you know, have a house that's nice, comparable, you know, a lovely place to live in, have food in the fridge, have a nice family, you know, just having it all, just having everything that you need in order to create, you know, inner joy and peace in your life. It doesn't necessarily have to be like material things, but it could be, you know, the necessary things, you know, house, transportation, food, clothing, you know what I mean? And just not have to be on edge all the time. Did I hear you say yesterday in one of your events that you walk around and you're like just so tied up, like you don't even realize that your shoulders are so hunched up? Was that you who said that?
That wasn't me, but good Lord, can I relate?
Yeah, like just having a good time on a daily basis. I mean, every day not going to be a good day, but as Black people, we have so many issues that we have to be concerned about. And to be on guard every day, all day for your entire life and still being able to prosper and do what you need to do, it makes us strong. So, you know, we can handle whatever comes our way, but Black joy would just probably be like waiting to exhale a little bit. You understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Remind me of your name?
Oh, Robin.
Robin, like I'm snaps for that. You know, in one of the sessions, I think it might have been Unique in the session who said that yesterday. I think about this quite a bit, especially as Black folks. I think that in order to be a Black person in 2020, you've got to be strong. You've got to be able to shoulder a lot, right? But we are humans, we are people. And I really catch myself sometimes feeling like I have to do it all, feeling like I have to have so much weight on my shoulders, like I can't even take a breath. And so I just want to lift up what you just said, right? That sometimes for me, Black joy would just be being able to take a fucking break, right? Being able to catch my breath and not feel like I have to shoulder so much. So for myself, I'm trying to remember things like boundaries and self-care and saying no when something doesn't feel right in my spirit. It's such a evolving practice because I feel like I have to remind myself every single day to do this. And I'm curious, have folks struggled with this also? And what are some ways that you have found yourself able to, you know, protect your spirit and keep in mind your self-care?
Some of the ways that I would say that I've used to help in first of all, just Black joy. Black joy would be just being me. Just walking outside and I'm just so myself all day, every day. I'm just me. I'm not thinking about being me. I'm just me. And ain't nothing else. I'm not thinking about what nobody else thinking. I'm empty and I'm free. And that's joy. I just empty. And I'm not thinking about Black. And I'm not thinking about nothing. I'm Black joy. And to get that for me, I just been expressing it through breath and being back in nature and connecting back with real things. And I know we into the election and all of this, but just to be with real things, with real people, with real stuff. Not with Democrats and not with Republicans and not with, I love my Muslims, but just to be with real people. Just be with like souls Like we know we souls, we empty. We just free. Ain't nobody got no cape, no nothing, no name, no nothing. We just free.
So you talked a little bit about how some of the ways that you connect to that freedom are being in nature. And then you mentioned breath work. Can you tell us a little bit more about that breath work?
Well, definitely yoga. Sure, I know even our culture has been scared of it. Like, I don't call it stretching, call it breathing, just connecting back and with movement that's real and movement that is us, that expresses us, and bringing the life force consciously into our body. Consciously, where is the life force? It's the air, it's the breath, bringing it into the body.
Does anyone else, is yoga or stretching or breath work or meditation part of anyone else's practice in terms of how they are mindful of their bodies and their self-care? You can just shout it out, unmute yourself.
Turn off the phone sometimes, because a lot of times we lose a lot of ourselves through our phones and social media and things of that sort. So things like, I don't know, getting into knitting. I like to yo-yo. I ride my bike at times. You know, you need to do things that are outside of electronics a lot of times, because we get so wrapped up in electronics a lot of times that we forget that there's a world out there. You know, people that don't know how to wash their hands. You know, we had to relearn about washing our hands, and like, it's certain things that people don't know basic anymore. You know, we got to go back to that. You know, those are some things I do, like turn off my phone. I'll go hang out with a friend, you know, things like that. Actually be around people, as she said, go back to real life, as we say before, you know.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you said that. I am a content creator and a podcaster, and a lot of that involves being on social media a lot. And I have to remind myself that, you know, my real life is not on this, right? My real life is here. And the way that I do that a lot of times for me is being outside, right? I was a little late logging into this event because I was outside roller skating in the middle of the city. You know, I try to spend as much time as I can in nature. And even if I can't get out in nature, just turning off my phone, even just for a little bit during the day, and just using that time to check in with real life, because it is, especially now that we're in quarantine and we're doing everything virtually, it can be so hard to remember that your real life, what's real in your life, like what really brings you joy, what really grounds you.
Mm-hmm. I like the idea that you just said you were around your neighborhood in the streets, rollerblading. I have challenged myself to walk my neighborhood. I'm finding new parks. I'm finding new hills and tough routes to walk around that I'm like, okay, now I know why I moved to California. I love the nature in California. I don't want to go to a club no more. I want to go to a new beach. I want to go to a new park. And so me and my friends have been park hopping. And so finding different parks to just chill, you know?
Okay, can you remind me of your name?
Meka, sorry about that. Meka from California.
Meka, I have so much to say. So first of all, you live in California. What part of California are you in?
So I am in Orange County, but I work out in LA. I travel. I have a lot.
It is one of my life goals is to be in California, because you have such access to such beauty that just, you could go outside in your front door and there's so much beauty out there. That's my life goal. That's one thing I wanted to say. Second of all, I love what you just said about like being out in your neighborhood, like just exploring different parks. There's a wonderful organization called Girl Trek, and they are the largest public health organization dedicated to Black women. And their whole thing is the radical power of Black women just going for a walk. One, it's reclaiming time for ourselves. So You know, it's even if it's just an hour in your neighborhood, that's an hour where you're like, hey kids, don't bother me. Hey boss, I am not here. It is just an hour for yourself. And then two, it reconnects us back to that radical power of, you know, simple pleasures for ourselves. You know, I think that like I love to go hiking. I love being out in nature. I often feel that as a Black person, there's this stereotype that Black people don't do stuff outside, and that couldn't be more wrong. We have such a legacy, especially as Black women, we have such a legacy of ownership over the outdoors. You know, our foremothers, like Harriet Tubman, were outdoors women, right? They understood how to be out in nature, how to take care of themselves out in the wild, right? And so when people say, oh, you're going for a hike in the woods, we don't do that, I know that's not true. So I just want to lift up what you just said, because it's been so impactful in my own life. Just getting outside, and even if you can't, you know, plan a hiking trip to some beautiful national park, maybe there's a little park in your neighborhood, right? Maybe there's a pretty tree and a pretty bench in your neighborhood. Maybe you can just take a walk around the block and find some natural beauty that way. I think there's always something, even if it's not, you know, the most Instagram worthy location, there's always something outside that I feel we can connect with, even if it's for an hour. You owe yourself at least an hour a day to do something for yourself. Like, if there's one thing I hope that we all take away, you owe yourself at least an hour a day for yourself.
I just have my name's Christy. Hi. Kind of like piggybacking on that, like I was at a pool one day and it started to rain, and instead of like running away, like I was like, you know what? The rain isn't gonna hurt me. Like, it's not. You know, I live in Florida, so I mean, it's a little risky because there's a lot of lightning. But I just like laid there and like I had the dress on. I was soaked, you know. And then finally I was like, okay, it's a little dangerous, so let me go ahead and go home. And like I had to take my flip-flops off because they were slippery. And so I had to walk barefoot back to my apartment. But like I felt so good. I felt so good afterwards. And it's like, especially like being like a biracial woman, like sometimes it's hard to balance like the fact that I can be a bridge between people. And so it's hurtful and it's good all at the same time. And like one of the things I learned recently is like take yourself on a date. And like one of my things was I wanted to go, there's like a thing called a cat cafe now where, you know, you can have coffee and you can pet a bunch of cats. I'm like, my cat, she's chilling right here. Like she's here with me. Anyway, but like, yeah, so that's one of my goals is to take myself on a date and go someplace like that. So.
Oh my God, I love that. If I could give everybody who is logged on right now a little homework assignment, that homework assignment will be take yourself out on a date. I love that so much. Yeah, like plan awesome. A night for you. Maybe it's, you know, okay, well, I'm gonna take a long bath tonight and listen to an album that I love, or watch a show that I like, or read a book that I love. I love this way that you framed it. Take yourself out on a date. I'm curious, anybody, maybe you don't feel comfortable answering, that's okay. If you had to plan an ideal date for yourself, what would it be? I just love this so much. Anybody can unmute themselves and jump right in.
It's definitely waterside. It could be a pool or a beach. And then I need a drink. I need a little vibe. You know, maybe 2, maybe 3. I just want, you know, I need to get in a really nice mood. And I was just like, girl, you real cute. Cause you are.
I have to ask, are you a Pisces by any chance? Or a water sign?
I am a Cancer Leo. I'm right on the cusp. So
okay, all right. Because I'm a Pisces, and when you said it had to be by the water, my little Pisces soul was perked up.
That's so funny because I'm a Taurus. So the fact of like walking back to my place, like my feet on the ground, because we're ground. So that's so weird.
Yes, crowned. I love it. I want to hear somebody else's date. Ideal date for yourself. If you were taking yourself out on a date, what would you do?
I think like I would definitely take myself to like a planetarium. It's like, so gaze, just remind myself of where I am, who I am, like the macrocosm, the microcosm, just like have that just like some sort of serenity. Even if it's just stargazing, like out on a hike, like a beautiful night, like no city lights, like clear skies. Oh, that would be, yeah.
I want to go on this date. Sounds awesome.
Come to South Africa. Come to South Africa. There's hella sky. Yeah.
Beautiful. That sounds beautiful. South Africa does have some really nice stargazing. I completely agree.
Beautiful stargazing, yes. Beautiful, beautiful skies. Oh, yeah.
I hope that, I mean, that is the one thing. If I see a lot of Black women that are logged in today, I think that it is so important, especially for us, to take ourselves out on dates, right? It is difficult to be a Black woman in 2020. We are up against so much and have to shoulder so much. And, you know, when I think about the kind of world I want my Black daughters to grow up in eventually is a world where they don't feel like they have to be super women who can do it all. A world where they can rest, a world where their worthiness and their value is not tied up with how much they can work, how much they can do, how much money they can earn, right? That they feel full and worthy as people, and that they know, even in those moments where they're resting or taking themselves out on a date to be by the water or stargaze or whatever, they're still worthy even in their moments of rest. Like, that is what I want for us as a people. That's the world I want, you know, the future generations of little Black folks to grow up in. I feel, you know, it's so easy to get caught up in this hustle mentality that, you know, grind 24/7. I want to build a world where you don't have to hustle 24/7 to just get your needs met, to be worthy, to have value. Does anyone, y'all feel me? Oh, if you want to chime in, just unmute yourself.
I actually was just saying to myself the other day that I need to spend more time on me, because I'm so busy pouring and giving to so many other people that I neglect myself. So I want to start to do that a little bit more. That self-date thing sounds really, really good. I think I'm going to go ahead and jump on that bandwagon and do something for myself.
Yes, you deserve it. It's the bare minimum of what you deserve. Sis, like 100%.
Yeah. I was gonna challenge. This is what I challenge as a teacher, but I'm challenging parents and other teachers and just people who see students. Realize that online learning is hard as hell. It's hard to teach online, and stop. You know, I really don't think that the world is gonna end if a student doesn't get a assignment in at midnight or at 4 p.m. Understand that the students, we don't need to teach our young people to grind before they even have any money to make. They're not making any money, so why are we teaching them this grind method, which when they get older, they're not gonna know how to self-care. They're not gonna know how to take time for themselves because they think that they have to uphold this get it done for someone else mentality. If they're grinding because of something they love, that's different, but don't have them thinking that they have to grind to meet someone's expectations. And that's coming from an educator, so.
Oh my God. Well, first of all, I just want to like shout that out. And also, how many educators do we have on the chat right now? If you're an educator in some capacity, just like give me a hey.
I mean, I had just like an interesting point just bouncing off of that about teaching students the hustle mentality. Like, so I'm from an advertising background. I teach design 2nd year and 3rd years. And my experience of that hustle mentality and what it's done to me, like put me in hospital twice and all this stuff, I felt it's so necessary to expose them to that, to show them the dangers of this kind of life. You know, just for that brief moment, like you're going to go into this world and this is what people are going to expect from you and want from you, but you can't sustain that forever. That's not a marathon. That's a sprint. And especially in our industry, you're going to burn out very quickly. So I really like that. You need to take time for yourself. You need to take care, but like, especially from like, really an educator's perspective, but sort of from like a person to person, like, I don't want you to go through this. I don't want you to have to like go through this. So it was important for me to just give them a taste of what that was, and hopefully steer them into more constructive, more productive and better careers for them, I guess. Yeah.
Definitely. Can you talk, I mean, how have you found any ways of helping your students see that they don't have to hustle all the time? Have you found any effective ways of doing that, or how have you been doing that? Because it's so important.
I think for me, it's really been about pushing self-confidence, because I teach multimedia design, so it's a very broad scope of skills that I teach. But if I can find something that I see a student is good in and is passionate in, hunt that as much as I can, build that confidence, because they will then sort of forge a career for themselves that they can sustain, you know? And that's for me like the most important. That's how I do it, yeah.
So for me, we've been telling kids, you know, it's a regular school day to log in. I hold class, it's my job. I have to be online. But for them, I have them come in. Yes, I have to take your attendance. But if you feel like it's 9 o'clock and it's not time for you to be productive, then I need you to know and write down a time and send it to me via email when you're going to do the assignment, or holding them that accountability. But for other students, the sense of structure is important. But for them to identify, are they a morning person or are they an evening person? When are you your best self? And when can you give your best self in that moment? And so because things are virtual, because this is the way of the world, if you're not your best self with, you know, your 5 siblings, all of y'all doing the homework and doing on the computer at the same time, then you take the time to not be on the computer at the, you know, at least an hour or two, help them out, get you some food, and then come back when you're ready. And so again, that's just teaching some of the adult skills that we kind of have as adults, teaching that to high school students, trying to teach that to middle school students so that they can identify, what do I need when I do get out of this K through 12, you know, box, because as a college student, you have that freedom. So they need to learn those freedoms early.
I love that. I have to say, when I first started working, my whole life I've never been a morning person. And I grew up thinking I was lazy. I grew up thinking I was stupid. I grew up thinking that like I would never be successful because I was never my best self at 8 o'clock in the morning. And now that I'm an adult, like I am largely self-employed, so I make my own schedule. And having a little bit of ownership and being able to say, I am my best self at 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. If you want peak Bridget, those are your best hours. And being able to design my work schedule around that, it's better for everybody. And I just remember as a kid feeling like if I couldn't get it together at like 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock in the morning, that something was wrong with me. But getting older and leaning into that like ability to design my own day was like a world of difference, you know. And I want a world where our young people know that if they aren't able to show up as their best selves in different, whatever it looks like, if they're morning people, evening people, if they need extra time to take a test or whatever, finding out how you perform best. Don't let anybody like make the mold for you, because we're all different. So I want that world for our young people. I'm so thankful that educators like you and other folks who are logged on today are helping our young people really design a world that is going to work for them and not a world that they need to fit into, you know? I love how many educators are on the chat. Can I just say that? And like, shout out to my teachers, because virtual teaching is no joke. It's been funny to me to watch I don't have children, but it's been funny to me to watch my friends who have kids do the like at-home learning, and they're like, oh, teachers should make $1 million a year, turns out. They've done it for like a week. So I just want to shout out to all the teachers and educators and school administrators that are on, and parents, because y'all are really the ones who are shaping what the future will look like. You know, we are up against so much as people, and that consistently the number one thing that gives me joy and hope for the future is our young people. And so thank you for all that you do to shape that generation and really shape what our future looks like.
Bridget, thank you. I wanted to know how you would address Nadine's comment in the chat box, but I do think that the generation and generations of people teaching us that we have to work twice as harder to get, you know, just half of what is out there. I do believe that sentiment of we're against a system that's not working for us is correct. But what's also magical is that Black people, we got skills. We have things that other people do not have. And so therefore, when I look at my students, I'm like, there's a strength in you that no one else has. Like, I don't see that the same strength in my other white students or other culture students. And so it's about building on those strengths that we have and building on strengths that people have in general. Because if you build your work around your strengths, you aren't working harder, you're working smarter.
Definitely. I love that. Nadine, can you tell us more about your comment? I didn't see it in the chat, but I would love to know.
Oh, hey, it's just generally as a Black girl growing up, I was always told I could be anything I wanted to be, but at the same time, constantly reminded, not only by family, but by the system itself, that I have to work twice as hard to be considered half as much as others in the system who are seen as more worthy. And as a professional creative, I'm able to work around it and get around it because I can just say, oh, I'm the quirky creative. I don't come into the office until I feel like it, blah, blah. But I see a lot of other people around me just struggling and suffering with how to push their kids to be their best, but not shortchange them in any way so that they don't have to, so how do I say this? So that they are prepared to deal with all of the roadblocks that are ahead of them in life. Does that make sense?
That is real. That makes so much sense. And I would actually love to throw that question back to some of the educators on the chat and some of the folks that work with young people or the parents. What do we think? How do we build a world where our children, especially our young Black girls, feel like they can do whatever they want to do, but also prepares them realistically for the world that they're entering? How can we do that?
I don't want to be the only proud educator on here or anyone. I saw someone who works with foster care students, and I think I work with probation, transitant, kind of homeless, transitant youth, and foster students. And so that's my job, to paint them a picture that's real and not necessarily too pretty, that they don't think that, you know, there's going to be struggles when they get their high school diploma. But I think it's important to hone in on either some of those soft skills, because a lot of what we're, as a person who's in STEM, science education, I understand that there are going to be some jobs that are going to be taken over. And so one of the things that people miss and students miss is these ideas of soft skills, these ideas of being able to collaborate with others, being able to hold themselves accountable, this executive functioning. No one's going to hold your hand. That's a bigger conversation when it comes to parenting and teaching. Is like, I can't hold you through this process. I want you to fail. And so I want you to know what it feels like to fail so that you don't want that to happen again. You don't want me to, you know, slap your wrist. That's a different thing. When something happens to you, when you don't like how it feels, you learn how to make sure that that never happens again. So I think, Nate, I hope, Nadine, this is kind of, I don't know if it answers your questions with another one, but when it comes to your student, your child, it's important to know, okay, what are things that you're struggling with and how can we attack those? Because as a teacher, Not all the time do teachers feel like they have the time to do so or feel like they have that space to do so. But as a parent, you do. You see that child day to day. A teacher might bring something to you that she's like, I see potential in this child, but this is something that's going to get them caught up, or this is something that's going to hold them back. Listen to that. Or, you know, make sure you have people around a student or around yourself to make sure that you're growing. I think when students see that, okay, people around me, my idols, my models, my parents, my teachers, they're growing because they have people telling them where they're wrong or where they need to improve on, and you actually model that. That's going to create a wall of support that, you know, our students need and our kids need, our African community needs right now.
A wall of support. Fuck yeah, I love that. Y'all, this has been amazing. We're almost out of time, but before I go, I want to remind everybody of the little homework assignment. Speaking of the educators in the room, remember to take yourself out on a date. Even if it's just for 30 minutes or an hour, you deserve that. And if you model that behavior for the younger generation, that you take time out for yourself, they will grow up with that mentality. So I just want to remind everybody that you have all the little assignment, and that assignment is to take yourself out on a date, something lovely, because you deserve it. And I want to thank you all for being here. This has been amazing. I hope that we get to hang out again sometime this weekend. Please keep in touch and have a good rest of your AfroPunk. I love you all. I love you all.